My name is Catherine Brooks. And for 7 years, I was the woman who made problems disappear. Lost contracts. Angry investors. Family emergencies. Scandals that never made the news, because I made sure they never would. If Benjamin Carter had a problem, I solved it. Quietly. Efficiently. Without asking too many questions. That was my job. That was my life. For 7 years, I believed that loyalty was its own reward. That if you showed up for someone, day after day, crisis after crisis, they would show up for you when it mattered. I was wrong. This is the story of how I found out the hard way. And if you're the kind of person who has ever given more to someone than they ever gave back to you, I think you already know how this one ends. 3 days after Benjamin Carter's funeral, his oldest daughter Olivia slapped me across the face, in front of everyone. Not privately. Not quietly. In the middle of a room full of people who had known me for years. The sound echoed. And then came the silence. That terrible, loaded silence where everyone is holding their breath, waiting to see what happens next. I just stood there. My cheek was burning. My ears were ringing. And my brain was doing that thing it does in moments of shock, where everything moves just slightly too slow, like the world needs a second to catch up with itself. "You think we're stupid?" she said. Her voice was shaking, but not with grief. With fury. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She laughed. It was the kind of laugh that has nothing to do with anything being funny. Then she threw a thick stack of papers onto the table between us. They fanned out like a deck of cards. I looked down. My name. Everywhere. Rent payments. Utility bills. Property maintenance fees. Repair invoices. Monthly transfers. All approved by me. My stomach dropped all the way to the floor. Because I knew exactly what those documents were. The apartment. The one Benjamin Carter had been asking me to manage, quietly, without explanation, for years. Olivia pointed at me like she was presenting evidence at a trial. 7 years, she said. Her voice cracked, just slightly. 7 years, my father hid you from us. And the room erupted. Whispers. Gasps. The kind of collective murmur that tells you a story is already forming without you. Olivia, I said, that's not true. Then why was he paying for your apartment? It wasn't mine. I was just managing it. Nobody believed me. Not Jordan, Benjamin's only son, who was standing near the door with his arms crossed and his jaw tight. Not Emma, Benjamin's youngest, who looked confused and scared and like she was desperately hoping someone would tell her what was happening. Not the colleagues. Not the people who had watched me work alongside Benjamin for nearly a decade. Not a single person in that room looked at me and thought, wait, let's hear her out. Because Benjamin was dead. And dead men don't explain themselves. Jordan stood up slowly. I think, he said, very quietly, that you should leave. I looked around the room one more time. Every face was a mirror of the same expression. Suspicion. Disgust. Judgment. The kind of look people give you when they've already decided who you are. 7 years of loyalty. 7 years of showing up, fixing things, keeping secrets, protecting that family, gone in less than 5 minutes. I picked up my purse and walked out. Nobody stopped me. The second I got to my car, I started crying. Not because of the slap. Not even because of the humiliation, though that was bad enough. I was crying because for the first time in 7 years, I genuinely did not know what was happening. I had spent my entire career fixing problems for Benjamin Carter. I knew where the bodies were buried, metaphorically speaking. I knew the names, the debts, the deals, the people he trusted and the people he didn't. But standing in that parking lot, I realized something terrifying. There was a part of Benjamin's life I knew absolutely nothing about. And it was destroying mine. My phone rang. Richard Reed, Benjamin's personal lawyer. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me answer. Catherine, where are you? Parking lot. Good. His voice was clipped. Careful. The way it gets when he's managing something. I need to see you. Why? A pause. Then, because Benjamin knew this was going to happen. I stopped breathing. What? He left something for you, Richard said. Come now. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Richard's office. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were copies of the same payment records Olivia had thrown at me, but there were more of them. Years and years of them. Every single one with my name attached. Richard, I said, I thought it was an investment property. I know. He told me it was an investment property. He just needed someone he trusted to manage the paperwork. Richard nodded slowly. He didn't tell anyone the truth. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then he handed me an envelope. I recognized the handwriting on the front immediately. Benjamin's. Deliberate. Clean. The way he wrote when something mattered. My heart started racing. I opened it. It began. Catherine, if you're reading this, Olivia has probably accused you of something by now. I'm sorry. I stopped. I read that line again. I'm sorry. After everything, after all of it, those two words made me angrier than anything Olivia had said in that room. Because I'm sorry, written after you're already dead, costs nothing. I kept reading. You were never supposed to be involved in this. I should have told my children the truth years ago. Instead, I asked you to help me hide it, without ever realizing what it would cost you. My hands were shaking now. The apartment belongs to a woman named Diane. I've been supporting her financially for years. Before their mother died, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. And Diane has been paying for it ever since. I closed my eyes. Diane. Not me. A woman named Diane. I had spent years managing an apartment for a woman I had never met. A woman I didn't know existed. And now I was being publicly blamed for being her. I felt stupid. Used. Embarrassed in a way that goes much deeper than humiliation, that kind of embarrassment that makes you question your own judgment. But the next lines hurt even more. I planned to tell Olivia, Jordan, and Emma. I kept postponing it. I told myself there was always more time. There wasn't. And now they're going to blame you for my choices, and I won't be there to stop them. I put the letter down. I didn't even have words. Richard just watched me quietly. That was my reaction too, he said. I laughed. The hollow kind. Because I had just realized something brutal and clarifying, my life had imploded because of a secret that wasn't even mine to keep. My phone rang on the drive home. Then again. And again. 32 missed calls by the time I pulled into my driveway. Most were from numbers I recognized. Colleagues. Former contacts. People who had worked with me for years and now suddenly needed to hear from me, whether out of genuine concern or a hunger for details, I couldn't tell. I ignored all of them. Then I made the mistake of checking social media. Someone had posted a photo from the luncheon. I don't know who took it or when, but there it was. A blurry image of the moment just after Olivia slapped me. The comments were exactly what you'd expect. She looks guilty. I always thought something was off about her. Poor family, they don't deserve this. By noon, complete strangers were forming opinions about my character with absolute confidence. People who had never met me. Who knew nothing. Who had seen a blurry photo and a handful of words and decided that was enough. But it wasn't the strangers that stung the most. It was a woman I had worked alongside for 5 years. Someone I had helped. whose career I had supported, quietly, more than once. She sent me a single message, "I hope it was worth it." That was it. No question. No, "Are you okay?" No, "What actually happened?" Just judgment. Wrapped in 7 words. I deleted it. Then another message arrived, this one different. Emma Carter. Benjamin's youngest daughter. "Can we talk?" I wasn't sure what to expect. But something in those 3 words felt different from everything else I'd received that day. Not accusatory. Not performative. Just a question. So an hour later, I sat down across from her at a small coffee shop. She looked exhausted. Like she'd been awake for days, processing something she didn't have the language for yet. "Did you have a relationship with my father?" she asked. No preamble. Just straight to it. I respected her for that. "No," I said. "Honestly?" "Honestly." She held my gaze for a long moment. Then something in her shoulders released, just slightly. Then she reached into her bag and slid a photograph across the table. Benjamin. Standing outside an apartment building. His arm around a woman I had never seen before. The woman from the letter. Diane. "You've never seen her before?" Emma asked. "Never." "Then why were you paying her bills?" "Because your father asked me to," I thought. "Because I trusted him." Because that's what I did, I trusted him and I handled what he asked me to handle, and I never pushed back for answers I probably should have demanded. But instead I asked, "Does Olivia know about this photo?" Emma's expression answered before she did. Olivia had found the photo. She had seen a woman connected to her father. She had found records tied to my name. And she had drawn the most damaging conclusion available. She had just drawn it about the wrong woman. "If you're telling the truth," Emma said quietly, "then who is she?" I thought about the letter sitting on Richard's desk. I thought about how much I had already lost. About the colleagues who had gone silent, the doors that had quietly closed in the past 72 hours. And then I made a decision. I was done carrying Benjamin Carter's secrets. "I know who she is," I said. Emma's face changed immediately. "Her name is Diane," I told her. "And she is the woman your father was actually hiding." Emma left our meeting looking like someone had handed her a map she didn't know how to read. I went home and tried to think clearly. That lasted about 48 hours. Because Olivia Carter was not done. A former coworker forwarded me a screenshot. An email Olivia had sent to senior leadership at Benjamin's company. My name was all over it. She didn't call me a mistress. She was too smart for that, too careful. Instead, she used words like inappropriate relationship, conflict of interest, breach of professional trust, same accusation, better packaging. I read it 3 times. Then I sat very still and felt something change inside me. Until that moment, I had still been, in some corner of my mind, protecting Benjamin. Protecting the version of him that I had known. The man who had trusted me, who had relied on me, who had, in his own complicated and ultimately cowardly way, cared about me. Olivia wasn't protecting me. Jordan wasn't protecting me. Nobody in that building was protecting me. So I stopped feeling guilty about what came next. I went back to Benjamin's letter, and for the first time, I read every single page. And halfway through, I found a sentence that made me stop completely. It said, "Diane was never the biggest secret." I read it again. Benjamin had another secret. A bigger one. One he had carried so long and so carefully that he had built an entire system of silence around it, and I had been part of that system without knowing. And suddenly I understood something I hadn't before. Benjamin Carter hadn't just been afraid of dying. He had been afraid of what would happen after. Because whatever this second secret was, it wasn't just something that could embarrass him. It was something that could unravel everything Olivia was fighting to protect. The next morning, the email from HR arrived. Termination. Effective immediately. No meeting. No conversation. No opportunity to respond to anything. Just 3 paragraphs that reduced 7 years to a clean, legal ending. I laughed when I read it. Not because it was funny. Because in that moment, I realized exactly what I had been to that company. I wasn't a person. I was a function. And the moment the function became a liability, it was removed. That same afternoon, Jordan Carter called. I almost didn't answer. "Catherine," he said. "No greeting. What did my father give you?" I sat back. "Your sister just had me fired, Jordan." He sighed like I was being dramatic. "You know how Olivia gets." "I know how Olivia gets." That was his response. To the slap. To the email campaign. To my termination. "If you're innocent," he said, "just tell us what you know." I ended the call. Because Jordan didn't want the truth. He wanted a version of the truth that was comfortable. One that preserved the image of the family. One that made the problem, me, go away without costing him anything. And I was done being the answer to other people's problems. About a week later, Olivia gave an interview. Nothing major. A local business publication. The kind of profile piece that's really just a vehicle for someone to manage their public image. She talked about loyalty. Family values. The importance of surrounding yourself with people of integrity. And then she said this. Some people take advantage of grieving families for personal gain. She never used my name. She didn't need to. Everyone knew who she meant. I read the article 3 times. Then I put it down next to Benjamin's letter. And I sat there for a long time thinking about what kind of person I wanted to be at the end of all this. I could stay silent. I could keep protecting everyone who had stopped protecting me the moment it became inconvenient. Or I could tell the truth. Not revenge. Not a takedown. Just the truth, documented, specific, and long overdue. I opened my laptop. Soft pause. The weight of the decision. I wrote everything. How Benjamin Carter had asked me to manage an apartment. What he had told me, and what he had deliberately not told me. How I had handled payments, renewals, repairs for years, for a woman I had never met, because I trusted the man who asked me to. I included dates. Emails. Transaction records. Richard's name, with his permission. And I included the relevant sections of Benjamin's letter, enough to prove, clearly and without ambiguity, that I was not the woman he had been hiding. I held it for almost 2 weeks. Every day I told myself the truth would come out on its own. It didn't. The rumors only grew. One afternoon I ran into a woman I had helped get promoted 3 years earlier. She saw me across the room, made eye contact, and looked away. Like she was embarrassed to be associated with me in public. That was the moment I stopped waiting. That evening, I hit publish. The next morning, my phone didn't stop. Messages. Emails. Calls from numbers I hadn't heard from in weeks. People who had gone very quiet when the accusations started, suddenly finding their voices again. Some apologized. Some asked questions, real ones, curious rather than accusatory. Some just wanted to let me know they had never believed it. Which would have been more meaningful if they had said so at the time. But that's people, isn't it? The moment public opinion shifts, everyone suddenly remembers how fair-minded they've always been. Around noon, Emma Carter called. She was crying. "Olivia is furious," she said. "I imagine she is. She didn't expect you to actually do it." I know. For the first time in weeks, Olivia Carter didn't control the narrative. People were asking her questions she couldn't answer. The story she had been managing so carefully had a crack in it, and light was coming through. That evening, I received a message from Olivia. Not an accusation. Not a threat. Not a lawyer's letter. 3 words. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. A month earlier, I would have called back immediately. But things were different now. I didn't reply. Not that day. 3 days later, I agreed to meet her. We sat across from each other at a small cafe, the same kind of quiet, neutral space where I'd met Emma weeks earlier. Nobody performing for anyone. Olivia looked different than I expected. The anger was still there, underneath. But it wasn't carrying her anymore. Something in it had collapsed. I was wrong, she said. I genuinely didn't expect that. Not from Olivia. Not after everything. I read the entire letter, she continued. I thought you were lying. I thought you were protecting yourself and trying to make my father look bad. But I read it. She looked at the table. Then she looked up. Did you hate him? I thought about that. No, I said. I was angry at him. There's a difference. Olivia looked surprised. Hate is clean, I told her. Anger is more complicated. Benjamin lied to me. He used me. He put me in a position I didn't consent to, and he left me there alone when it fell apart. All of that is true. But he also trusted me, relied on me, and in his own way, he valued me. And that's true at the same time. Olivia nodded very slowly. Then she said, Jordan still thinks you knew. I laughed. That's Jordan's problem, I said. Not mine. And for the first time, I actually meant it. I owe you an apology, Olivia said. You owe me more than an apology. She looked stung. But she didn't argue. Because she knew I was right. An apology doesn't replace what was taken. It doesn't restore a reputation, or give back the jobs I didn't get, or undo the weeks I spent in a fog of anxiety wondering if my career was finished. But it was a start. And that's more than most people manage. About a month later, Olivia sent a company-wide email. Not a quiet note. Not something buried in the HR announcements. A public acknowledgement. In it, she admitted she had been wrong about me. She said there had been no inappropriate relationship. She said she had made assumptions in a moment of grief and anger, and that those assumptions had caused real harm to someone who did not deserve it. She didn't have to do that. She could have let it quietly fade. Most people do. But she didn't. And for that, just for that, I gave her credit. It didn't fix everything. The people who had already moved on didn't unmove on. Some doors that had closed didn't reopen. But the truth was, finally, louder than the rumor. And that was enough. Looking back, I don't think Olivia Carter ruined my life. I think she revealed something I should have learned years earlier. That loyalty means nothing to someone who only sees you as useful. For 7 years, I protected Benjamin Carter's secrets. I fixed problems that weren't mine. I defended people who never thought to defend me. I stayed silent when I should have asked questions, accepted what I was told without pushing back, and told myself that's what loyalty looks like. It isn't. Loyalty is reciprocal, or it isn't loyalty. It's just labor with a softer name. The moment things fell apart, I became the easiest person to blame. Not because I was guilty, but because I was convenient. I was the person whose name was on the paperwork. I was the person who knew things but wasn't family. I was the person who could absorb the accusation without the story falling apart. That's what fixers are for. Until we're not. And here is the thing I want you to hear, especially if any part of this story sounded familiar to you. My revenge wasn't exposing Benjamin's affair. It wasn't proving Olivia wrong. It wasn't watching people apologize after all the damage was done. My revenge was simpler and more complete than any of that. My revenge was refusing to carry their lies one single day longer. The day I stopped protecting their secrets was the day I started getting my life back. I lost a job. I lost relationships I thought were real. I lost people I genuinely believed cared about me. But I also learned something worth knowing. If someone can destroy your reputation without evidence, without a hearing, without even the courtesy of a conversation, they never truly respected you in the first place. You were useful. That's different from respected. Today, I work somewhere else. Most of the rumors are gone. Some people apologized. Others never did, and I've stopped waiting for them. Because peace didn't come from their apologies. It came from finally telling the truth. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from Catherine Brooks and the Carter family, it's this. Never sacrifice your own life protecting someone else's secrets. Especially when they're perfectly willing to let you pay the price.